No, so you can rest up.
It's fine, not too much. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let me see leaders. We'll take questions.
All right, thank you and good afternoon. Still afternoon or evening. Firstly, of course, we initially scheduled to begin at least latest at 2, after 1. But the negotiations generally take long. We had quite a lengthy meeting with the associations that are responsible for public scholar transport. Remember, we're dealing with public aspect, the ones that are contracted with the department. And this are 250 service providers, accounting for 3,600 or so buses. They transport around 260,000 of our members. So we had quite a lengthy engagement with them, really trying to deal with the impasse that we find ourselves. As you are all aware that they suspended their services for Monday, the previous week. So our learners have not been transported from last week Monday up until today. We have been engaged in these negotiations with them for quite some time. Obviously, we began the negotiations at different levels. Initially, the negotiations, how they begin, we try to manage them internally between the officials of the department. Officials meaning the CFO here, I've forgotten to do on my side, Mr. Mafura, the officials in the department, and obviously the affected service providers. And ultimately got to where myself as the executive authority of the department to come and obviously conclude this. And after some lengthy discussions between ourselves and them, we're able to find ourselves on what would be termed as a, I think for lack of a better word, critical success factor. What we determined for them to go back and begin to resume their services. As you are aware, initially they did release a statement which indicated quite a number of issues. There were about 9 demands that they put in that particular statement, and of which not all of them are related to the Department of Education, of which we had to explain to them that this meeting is between us as the department that has a contract with you. We did not bring the Department of Transport and not bring the Department of Community Safety, of which those are the ones that deal with law enforcement and also the compliance aspects of permits. Like we can't discuss those things here. Because now we're speaking about yourself as a service providers that are contracted with the department and us as being your clients. And we're able to really find each other that the situation that is there now of having our children not going to school is not an ideal situation that we want, both of us, including them, and we have to really resolve it urgently. So they made their demands clear. From the nine demands that they've made, around 4 of them they don't need us as a department. The other 5 we were able to agree and resolve them. Key amongst those was to set up a committee to deal with the clearing of house, what do you call the L1. Yeah, the L1, the forms that schools they sign at school to confirm the learners that have been transported, and obviously we're going digital there, so there was the clarity there on that one, and obviously the payment, the issue of payment that they've raised, that we owe them. Initially they said we owe them 3 months, which we don't owe them 3 months. We owed them actually 2 months at the time, which it was December and November. So we managed to pay them for December payment, and what is left is the November payment, of which we committed that we are going to be, they should be paid. In fact, they will be paid by end of the week, obviously considering the processes that are involved through Treasury, etc. We just had a lengthy meeting as well with the Premier and the Treasury and Transport, of which we were able to resolve the issues of payment. So they will be getting their payment before end of the week for the November, which was a point that they labored on, that they are waiting for this particular payment, which will unlock them to begin to deliver on the services. But on the level of really spirit of Ubuntu, responsibility and really, genuine patriotism, we agreed that they should begin to go back. But what they've committed, we've agreed to that. Because of the suspended operations, now meant that they had to also move their assets because they were being vandalized. They raised quite an amount of things. So they will fully be ready to resume full operation on Monday, where they'll be able to take our learners fully. But that will be a phasing approach. Those that have capacity, they'll begin the process of resuming operations, of which for those ones with capacity, they will most probably begin on Thursday. But that on its own is the communication that will take place between themselves and obviously the schools that they service, so that they can prepare the schools and the parents and the stakeholders that they're dealing with. So, but full operations, an agreement that the final day on Monday, full operations are going to begin swiftly to take our learners back to school normally. But that's what we have managed to agree. So where we are, we're quite happy that at least we managed to find each other to a point where operations will begin. Obviously, ideally, I want the operations to fully begin tomorrow. But as you know, because they are operating with buses, they need to go and check their buses if they are ready to operate. They need to service them. They need to prepare their drivers. They need all those things. So they said, obviously, on its own, it requires a day or so to make sure that the infrastructure is up and running. Some of them even say that they had to move their buses outside. For example, they are outside the area of operation or outside the province, some of them. So they have to move those buses back into the province so that they can begin. So we agreed that the operations is going to begin in phased. It's going to be phased, and communication will be done through schools by each service provider, because each service provider is linked to the number of kids and it's linked to a school. So they will be able to communicate as such. So where we are, really, we are happy that at least we're able to get to this point where we are of normalizing. And I want to really apologize to the public, especially the learners that are affected and the parents, because I know that the communities are up in arms, and correctly so. But this is not a situation that we would wanted as a department. We always try our level best to really deal with issues promptly, so that services are not disrupted in any way. But this was an extraordinary situation that we found ourselves in. But what is good is that we have resolved it. We're at the tail end. They've also committed the association that they will release a statement to obviously confirm what I'm saying in terms of the meeting resolution. But where I am, I'm confident that we will ultimately resolve this time. It's all about how seamless the operations are going to begin to take our learners to school. The other three issues that we initially wanted to communicate are the two learners that have passed on, their soul rest in peace, the 5-year-old grade R learner, the grade 12 learner. Obviously, we are waiting for full comprehensive reports on those two cases. I know that they have been inundated with parents asking me about it. Earlier, that allegedly was locked in the classroom, and then obviously the grade 12 that fell ill during one of the afternoon classes. So looking at those reports, I mean, the decision as to how best to deal with those two cases, I will come back to it much later. But for now, obviously, we just, the report that I have is what it we've received from the districts. And on placement, we still have around 1,000 learners that are left. But the delay, of course, the delay is the acquisition of the mobile classrooms. We've had quite a challenge with getting mobile classrooms promptly so that we are able to place these learners. But in the interim, we've begun to move these learners into temporary spaces up until we get these classrooms into the school, fully compliant, meeting the norms and standards. Then we can take the kids into this particular school. So that's where we are with regard to placement. It's one of those things that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And I must say that it's not an easy thing, this issue of placement. The public might assume that we don't want to place kids. We do want to place kids. And I really want to condemn those political parties who think disrupting a school and forcing learners into a school is a solution. It's not a solution. You know, if there's anything, we're traumatizing these kids. When we go there, we kick down the gate, we lock the gate. You can't expect the child to be okay. You know, kids are now living in fear because political parties think because it's an election year, they must go and become populist and disrupt this system. We must be conscious as parents that kids are kids. If you disrupt a primary school, a grade 8 learner gets scared every day when they see you. It's traumatic. You know, we need to be mindful of these things. There are avenues to raise this concern. There are spaces that are there to raise these concerns. But disrupting, making noise, singing, kicking down the gate, threatening the teachers, threatening the parents, threatening even learners, that's uncalled for. And I really, really want to condemn that behavior. And I must even express my dissatisfaction with the way the police, especially in the Tshwane South area, the district of Henry, they just stand there and watch as if it's a show. They're enjoying it. Maybe they're even taking videos for that matter, because they've not done anything. Many a times we get reports that police are here and they are looking. And I don't know if they don't know what is their job, but I did have a discussion with the Provincial General Ntombeni around the conduct of it. I had to even call the General, your police, there's criminal elements who have locked the gate. I mean, people come that night with their locks, just decide to lock the gate so that kids can't go to school. I know that person is a mad person, it's madness. You know, you have to be a lunatic to really come to that idea that you are protesting but you want to lock a gate. And still, that gate is locked. We just request them, go out and unlock it. Break it, they don't do it, they just watch. They say you are watching. I mean, why are you watching when you know somebody's breaking the law and you're doing nothing? So the police really, they have to come to the party, and they must not enjoy the show. These lives of kids are not for show. You know, it's not something that you observe and discuss at home. This is what happened. We expect them to do their work. We expect them to apprehend criminals. We expect them to enforce what the prescripts in the Bella Act that spoke about. They are speaking about disruption of schooling, and they've really not assisted us. I have to express it, and I've been quite frustrated with them. But overall, this is where we are with the placement, and I want to also to those parents as well that it's not an ideal situation, and I'm really apologetic. I'm in pain that we find ourselves in this situation and with their children. We will support them, those learners. They will catch up the loss of time that it was. We're going to put pressure, we're going to add resources to make sure that those kids don't lose anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I can take questions.
It has to be.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Four.
Thank you very much, MEC. And you, CFO. You are not familiar with us, that is why. Thank you very much, MEC. I don't know, I don't want to ask you how much are you expecting from Treasury, but I just want to double check with you. Is that enough? Will that be sustainable so that you avoid finding yourself in this position?
I would like to know what were the reasons that other service providers were not paid in the months of November and December.
I just want to know the exact number of children who have been affected by the strike. And the MEC mentioned that they will get the kids up to speed in catching up with their schoolwork. Do we have an outline plan on how the department intends on doing that?
Yeah, Chiloane from ESC. Thank you so much, I just want to know if there's any plans to make sure that the program that existed now that caused us to be here, do you have any plan going forward so that we don't find ourselves in the same situation? And number two, some parents outside, they were saying that they have an issue with regard to the mode of transport, which is the bus, which carries a lot of people. So the problem is that in case of accidents, they will lose more children. And then what is your view with regard to that? And then they were suggesting that you give those schools which are nearby the containers so that they can be able to be safe and go to school close at home.
Okay, let me see. All right. In terms of the cost, on average, we pay scholar transports in our province. You know, in fact, let me just say this. In Gauteng, we get a grant allocation for public scholar transport. And the grant allocation is small. It's around 1.1 billion. What we pay is around 1.8 to 9 billion to provide this service. Why we're spending over and above? As you know, that Gauteng, because of the growth in the number of learners and the population and the proliferation of informal settlements, then these kids need to be transported to nearer school. So we've been carrying this thing, and the grant has not been growing, but the number of learners requiring the service has been growing. That's why we're sitting at around 200, you're asking me, around 58,000 or so learners that we are transporting through our public school transport. And that's because of the this mushrooming of many informal settlements and kids requiring transport. Because we have an obligation by law that once it's 5 kilometers, we have to come in and provide transport. And that's what we've been dealing with. So that's why. So from our side, you know, the level of integrity, we as a provincial government, we said we are not going to stop because the grant is little. We said we want to ensure that we comply constitutionally. That's why then we are paying over around 800, costing us $1 million to transport these children of ours. So it's something that we've been doing. In fact, some are saying, why are you spending more? And I'm saying to them, so it means if we have to keep with the grant, we are going to have around 80,000 kids not going to school. And that is another question now. How do you leave 80,000 kids without any transport to school? We can't do that. I mean, us as public reps, I mean, for me, as a person, my own integrity, I can't have that. I'd rather deal with the situation of service providers that are, you know, wanting payments, then having kids, 80,000 that I know if we try something there and there, we can assist, get them to school. And I must say the provincial government has been, we've been very supportive into ensuring that we try. So this has affected our budget greatly. With the budget cuts, it has been very difficult for us to operate. I mean, now with this new financial year, we're expected to cut our budget by 300 million. So our problems have grown, but the money, we're told that it must be cut. And we must still provide the services that we're expected to be provided. So we are in a very difficult position as the Department of Education in this province, and largely because the number of learners population is growing too quick. 100,000 a year, it's a lot of kids that come in. It's a lot, and it's really putting a lot of pressure on our system entirely. It's affecting placements, it's affecting infrastructure, sustainability. That's why some of our infrastructure is really aging quicker because of the pressure on it. So reason for non-payment, of course, it's cash flow. It has been a challenge. Budget cuts has affected us greatly. And remember now, we are dealing with this outside the grant. The grant is long finished. I think within the first 7 months, the grant allocation is done. Then the next we have to ask Treasury, we have to have the board to give us money so that we can continue with the service. So the issue is just cash flow and the grant allocation. The grant is very little to cover this. But we've been, whenever we have budgeting council, we raise this. But we are really under pressure with this scholar transport. We're looking at different models. We're looking at rationalizing it. We're looking at the model maybe to buy buses for schools. We're just looking at alternatives at the end of this contract on what best model can we try with the little that we have to make sure that the service continues and kids are not compromised. So I've spoken to the number. Yes, the catch-up, of course. We do have a place. We've already started. Our curriculum branch has begun to prepare the catch-up for those learners that have lost time. 2 weeks is a lot. We're already dealing with COVID. Now we're dealing with this 2 week strike. I know in some communities we're going to be dealing with community service delivery strikes that will be closing some of the schools. So this is impacting us very negatively. But we do have plans in place to make sure that we support the learners. For problems not to happen as well, and I know you spoke about overcrowding, some of the demands that they've put in, and we did explain to them that, I mean, there's a demand that we have to tell the Department of Transport not to issue fine. Maybe we have to scrap compulsory testing for now. And we said all those aspects, I mean, it means we can't find them. If they've overloaded, they cannot be stopped. I mean, those are some of the things that it was raised. So I said to them, the law, we have to comply. And what we can do is to maybe look at, for example, the testing. They did bring proposals. But because testing takes time, can we do testing in June holidays and also the Easter holidays, using those 2 holidays as a time frame for testing? And those are reasonable proposals. We considered it, and something that we'll take to our sister Department of Transport. We've said on our part we're going to get our schools to be ready to set up units in our schools to assist them complying for permits, because part of the requirement for permits, they need obviously a letter from the school. So the schools will also set up desks to assist not only public scholar transport, but also the private scholar transport providers. So we'll be dealing with that. But in terms of overcrowding, traveling on roadworthy vehicles, we told them it's a no-no, it can't happen. And they was also agreed that they have an obligation to keep to their end of the pipe, to make sure that the buses are good. So for this plan, for this not to happen again, we've also agreed on a payment plan where we both agree that what will be the time frame. Of course, the SLA says it must be 30 days, but obviously we are going to negotiate that considering our budgetary or financial challenges that we are experiencing in the department. Can we then agree on what could be the latest and what could be a different model? Maybe, for instance, we can say to them, can we pay you every 3 months? For 3 months, maybe it's a lump sum for 3 months, as an example. I'm not saying that's what we agree, but these are approaches that we will be proposing when we find each other on the payment plan. Or if it's 30 days, how then to improve on the 30 days? Should we pass? What could be the latest that we agree to pay them back? So we've agreed on the clearing of house committee, which includes GDE, will include them as association representing the service providers, which will include community safety, which will include transport as well. So that committee is the one that's going to be clearing up the other demands that were raised by them. But where we are, and we also agreed that we've also noted some of the media statements by some civil organizations saying that they've got a corrupt relationship with the department. And I asked them, is there anyone with a corrupt? They said no. So they've got a responsibility. We on our part, on my part, what I've said I'm going to do, I'm going to institute a forensic audit on the contract itself. Because people are raising issues that there's a probable the relationship where for them to be paid. There's a lot of accusations. So we're going to do a forensic on the contract itself, in which the terms of reference obviously will be clarified when we introduce the company that will be doing that. But obviously to check on the contract, how it came about, the aspects of services being provided, is the service providers adhering to the SLA, are we also adhering to the SLA, all those aspects of the contract, so that everything is clarified, so that if there are accusations, they need to be proven and there needs to be evidence, and therefore I'm acting in such. And I've also informed them of the action that we'll be doing with regard to that particular contract, so that we clarify, because some were saying that they are not being paid because the officials who want money before they get paid, and where I'm sitting, it's not true from our side. I've got absolute trust in the officials that work in this department, but if there are something untoward, we will uncover it with the independent forensic audit company that will be assisting us. So in terms of is it closed schools? I think that's fine. You speak about closed schools.
No, they were talking about kids being moved away from their closed schools, so they're using buses, so they are fearing the accidents because of the capacity of the bus.
Yeah, no, look, our buses, we've not had any major accident, honestly. There has been incidences, yes, like one we had in Chiloane, I remember 2 years back. But overall, there's not been many major incidences. I think the buses, the public school transport has been able to adhere to the SLA. Our kids have been transported safely. They don't drive high speed on the roads. They've really tried to adhere to that. But issues of schools, I mean, those schools, we have to build schools. And the truth is, the reason why we've got such a high budget for scholar transport, because there are not enough schools closer to those communities, and it's a correlation. If you don't have schools, you're going to spend more on transport, but if you have schools, you're going to spend less on transport. And this is where we are. So we are addressing this part of getting schools, and I can tell you, we are finalizing the PPP model, and that one, I know that we're going to get schools. It's going to be a busy province building schools, and that we know that from there we are going to be at far less cost on transportation and other things, and once we get that done.
Second round? Five. want to this side? Fine. Okay.
Thank you very much. Mine would be short because of time. Are you adamant? Are you sure that by the end of the week, are you committing yourself that you will be able to pay the service providers? We won't have this issue by Friday or over the weekend. Also, so after these negotiations, are you telling us that there will be no shutdown tomorrow? Thank you.
Dimakazo, EWN. I just wanted clarity. You said something about a payment plan. Is there a payment plan agreed to? And what does it entail? Because it sounded like you said you were still going to discuss it. Have you agreed to it, or is that still to come? And the allocation grant for transport, who decides that? Where does that come from, and what informs that? Because you said you're getting 1.1 billion and you have to pay close to 2 billion. So who determines that? How is it determined, and who allocates that?
I think you have not heard the voice of the CFO. I will give him this part. The payment. Look, I said to you Monday, full operations would be resumed, and I'm adamant, yes. I'm confident that we are going to pay them. They will be paid by end of the week. We just came out of a meeting now with the Premier, and we managed to agree that this is what we're going to be doing, the process leading up to pay them. So they will be paid. They will be paid. Hence I said to you that the return to full service is going to be phased. Those with capacity who have infrastructure ready will begin work. But they've requested at the minimum a day, meaning the day will be tomorrow. So we can anticipate that some will begin operations on Thursday, some will begin operations on Friday, but definitely Monday is full operation everyone. So it's going to be phased in, depending on capacity and so forth. So, but from our side, we've agreed on it. And they said when they left, they want to brief their members of what we've agreed on, and the agreement, obviously some aspect to them is sort of a proposal. The proposal for them that they're taking is what I said, that can you go back tomorrow? So the proposal that they're taking to their members is not that we're going to pay, is that I asked them, go and tell your members to go back to work tomorrow. So, but they were able to tell us that because of capacity, but they will communicate with the members that the MEC requested that we go back to begin operations tomorrow. So to the public of Gauteng is that, what I can say is that from Thursday, there will be a phased-in approach of returning the services. But Monday, definitely, it will be a full normal service from the public transport services, because we have committed to our part of paying them for November.
I will try and shout. Let me say the budget for scholar transport is appropriated through the legislature and the provincial government, and that's where we get the funding for scholar transport. The payment plan, we have agreed with the associations that there will be a task team or a committee that will be formed between us and them. And this is not about the payment for this November payment, it's about the future payments. And through that process, we will then agree on the payment plan and solidify it with the team that we had the negotiations with today. So those are the two questions that I have to respond to.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will leave it here.
Thank you.
Apologies for making you late. Hope you understand the difficulties that we're facing.
I know, cover.
Thank you so much.